It's the On Stage podcast with Chris Robert. We have a smooth, charming, with a little sass Americana folk pop artist. Randie O'Neil is here, and a lot of her music she puts herself into, and her writing and performances using honest and witty lyrics about heartache and strength paired with catchy melodies. Randie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Touch on who you are and what you do for people who don't know who
Man,
Randie O'Neil is.
who am I? That's the eternal question. How much time do we have? Um, I'm a culmination of all things. I'm a culmination of my alcoholic parents, um, needing to find myself and my voice. I eventually became an adolescent counselor, addiction. I'm a trauma specialist, and at some point, to find myself, I combine the both of them. You know, I like writing upbeat music with a message for some hope. I like to keep things bouncy and positive. Um, and even when you have a sad song, there's a message in there too. Like there's hope for everything. So I really try to bring things, full circle and offer support, a message, and music.
Sounds wonderful. But it's good that you're open, able to discuss who you are, talk about who you are, what formed you and the person you are today. So that's
You know,
always good to hear.
when I
Um,
throw it out there, like I introduce a song, I give people freedom to do the same. And they always come up to me and say, oh, I had the, me too. And, we keep secrets always. But there's strength in numbers and sharing people's stories, and everyone's got a story. It's just giving people freedom to be okay with their story and sharing their story, and then you get support back.
so
You
what
know.
song would you want to play for us then so that we can understand, okay, these are the lyrics, this is the music, then we'll be able to get right inside you and
You know what?
okay.
It's one of my current ones that I wrote at a song workshop with Paul and Dan Navarro. COVID, and I was trying to get into the Grove, and they gave me a writing prompt called Pride. I'm like, Pride? I had alcoholic parents. I don't have pride. And I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I only have a couple minutes. Like it was a speed reading thing, and I'm like, well, that's my song. I don't have pride. Why don't I have pride? And it took me back to the moment where my stepfather sold my guitars. I
Oh,
was in eighth grade and doing my thing and trying to keep my head down and stay out of trouble. I came home, my guitars were gone, and I was crushed. I didn't
oh.
know what to do. I went to the curb and I'm just like rocking. I couldn't even cry. I was just so shocked. And at that point, I'm like, I'm going to sing. That's it. They can't take that. I'm going to singing. It took me, I only been playing guitar for 10 years. It took me that long. Guitar. I was like so traumatized. But,
Wow.
that was a big lesson that you're kind of on your own and you need to be resourceful or you're going to just get crushed by the weight of things. Song that probably defines me the most is called Daddy's Pride. All right. Let me know my levels here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Randie O'Neil is going to grace the stage with beautiful music.
All right, Daddy's Pride. I'm the girl on the playground, kids all around. I'm in a corner, can't make a sound. I'll stay in my room with my guitars for the afternoon. It's where I belong. But one day they were
excellent.
Thank you. And if it is glitchy, I mean, there's a video of that one too. So,
I loved it. Daddy's Pride.
Daddy's Pride.
And is there a backstory to that song?
Yeah, it's when they had alcoholic parents, and during the '80s, I was in Allentown, Pennsylvania. The steel fell. It was just a very troubling time, and working class people they felt no use for music, and what the epic fail was, they couldn't see what it meant to me. And to me, that's the biggest fail a parent could have, is not supporting what a kid likes to do and who they want to be. So coming home and something I really loved and enjoyed, it was ripped out from under me. And you're looking at your parents going, well, who am I to you? Who are you to me? When you can't support me and you don't know who I am. And you dig down and you got to get it strong. And, I wasn't for a while. I really, I was pretty wrecked for a while and angry and probably not the nicest person. But, I eventually got back to music and found my voice again and worked through some things. Lots of therapy.
Were they usually violent against you and abusive?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, abuse in every single way. I mean, the derogatory comments were so hurtful, so painful. You just grow up with no confidence, believing, at some point you hear it enough, you think they're right. You're useless. You're this. You're a whore. You're this. You're out. I was at a basketball game, but I was out sleeping with every guy in town. It's just a lack of confidence. It's just staggering.
Yeah. I had a friend whose parents were alcoholic as well, and some of the stories he shared with me, and I'm so happy that they didn't follow in their parents' footsteps, but his brother did after a while, and then he became a Christian and he stopped drinking, and that's amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing transformation.
if you're from an alcoholic family, you're 4 times more likely to go on to use. I think 75% of women actually marry some type of addict or abusive. I mean, you go with what you know. You want to do something different, you just don't have any idea how to do that. So you really have to consciously do something different. Like your friend went into Christianity and found a whole new way of doing things and a whole new belief system, and that's sometimes what it takes. Something totally different, and consciously, I'm not about that.
Were there times during your family life that you wish you had died because you wanted to escape the violence and the abuse?
All the time. I didn't think I was going to see 20, because I was like, what my future is going to be? I'm a horrible person. My parents don't even love me. I can't do anything right. Why am I going on? And I did. I had been suicidal and had, the attempts and all that goes with it. And it's taken a lot of rebuilding. And then I went into counseling myself, and now I work with, kids in crisis. And but it's a road. It's a journey, for sure. And it takes a long time till you realize you're not alone. Once you realize that, it's power, and you could build your own community that doesn't include your parents, and learning that's okay. Find people who do like you and, have common interests to you. And that there's power in that.
What's your family life like now? Do you still get along with your parents at this point?
Yeah, I'm actually very close with my mother now. My stepfather, he passed during COVID. They thought it was COVID. It was Legionnaire's disease. Hello. But it allowed our family to come back together and heal. And we've been doing a lot of that, a lot of family time. I really have accepted the situation, accepted my mother's limitations, because there's a lot of anger at her. She's supposed to be the mom and protecting us, and she just couldn't do it. She just couldn't do it. So a lot of healing, a lot of forgiving. You don't forget. That's ridiculous, but you come to terms with it.
Most people find music or something to cope when they have an abusive relationship with either their husbands or their father, their mother, their family, and it seems that music and singing is a form of coping. And it seems that you probably discovered music at an early age and ability to sing just for that coping mechanism. Am I correct?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, and I did a lot of that, but I didn't have confidence to like sing in public. I was that proverbial like could not stand in front of anything. My roommate got me to audition for a band in college, and they literally like put me in a closet, let me sing, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna be great," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I can't do this in front of you." So took a long time to get that confidence, and I think it came when I started writing and writing my own material and saying, you know what, I can use this to kind of tell my story, but make it more powerful than that, you know. So I think that's when I really started to come into my own.
Yeah, you mentioned that your storyteller comes from a sincere place. Your work as an adolescent intervention specialist brings a real world perspective to your lyrics, and that helps you to every day makes you a better person as the time goes on.
God, I hope so. I really do. It's got to mean something, you know. It's got to be some hope in there.
Can you give us a little bit of backstory to Queen of the Barstool two step? Is that part of an experience? I'd like to know how.
You know what? That was a little creative license. That was real world meets let's not make it so I just got dumped during COVID. You know, what I noticed is what do girls do when they get dumped? You put on your makeup, you put on your best pair of jeans, and you go out on a town, and it's sad and it's lonely, but it beats sitting alone. And it's, you know, you try to connect again and make it okay. And that's what Queen of the Barstool is really all about. I originally wanted it to be a two-step. And my producer kept dragging his heels, and he goes, Randie, it's kind of a sad song. And I'm like, but I don't want it to feel sad because you're coping. And this is our kind of, we listen to different things, and this is kind of our happy medium, but it was the biggest back and forth of all the studios on this album. I thought it was going to be Full Moon Rising because I didn't think he was going to get that, but he did. This one was like, I need another line. We're doing this. No, I can't do that. It really was this give and take of me and my producer going back and forth. But it finally came together, and I love the way it came together.
Yes, I actually loved watching your videos and listening to your music and figured there's a story behind these. How about It Should Have Been You? What's the story on that one?
Okay, so I'm pretty damaged during high school, and we've established I probably didn't make the best decisions during high school. And one of them was this guy. He was just a nice guy. And I liked talking to him, but I kind of kept him at a distance. So in Allentown, Pennsylvania, Dorney Park was a small little tiny park. And we had Zephyr Night at Dorney Park, and all the kids from Whitehall would go there, and because we had the park for the night. And he asked me to go out right by the carousel, and I couldn't say anything. I knew in my heart that I should like this kid. He's nice. He would never hurt me, but I wanted to be saved. You know, I wanted a guy with a car and a job, and I was just too damaged. So years later, like looking back over the things you've done, it's like, oh, I wonder what Matt's doing right now. You know, I hope he's happy. I hope things are really great because it should have been him. I'd actually sent him the song.
Yeah,
I sent it to him. He didn't know what to say. It's like all these years, you know, you're staying in touch in Facebook and stuff. And he was like, I don't even know what to do with this. But I saw him over the summer, and he's like, I really love the song. It's a really, really good song. So he was really good sport about it. Uh,
well, let's
but
talk about Here I Stand. What about that one?
something that's really empowering as a songwriter is to get a prompt and create a song from nowhere. Okay, like Daddy's Pride would have never existed if Alice Paul and Dan Navarro hadn't given me that prompt. And Here I Stand is pretty much the same thing. It was for an opiate awareness contest. And I entered, so I wrote this song, Here I Stand, about just life coming undone. And it's kind of self inflicted, but yet you can't help it. And I actually was a finalist in the contest, but then I got pneumonia. And it took me about a year to finish the song after that, you know. But that's what that's about. It's really about the spiral into addiction. But I tell everyone who's going through that, you are still in the game. You still have time to turn things around, and here you stand. And that's really what the song is about making your stand and deciding what you stand for.
And life really brought you to this situation you're in now, where you're playing, you're singing, and the words and lyrics just come up out of your mouth, and it's like really affects everyone emotionally. And until you know the experience behind the reason why you wrote the song and the lyrics, people just think it's a regular song. But until you tell them why you wrote it and what it means to you, it has a whole different emotional feel to it.
And I'll take that a step further. It was released during COVID. COVID had just hit. My label dropped me like a bad prom date, and I decided to go ahead and release anyway. And it's getting all these views and all this attention. I see none of it. I see no one's reaction, you know, and it was really hard. I mean, I was glad people are listening, but it's so much rewarding to talk to people about it and what's your experience. I let people listen to a song and, you know, I ask them what resonates with them, and it's not what I thought it would be, you know, and I really love that, and meeting people and being able to talk to them about it.
Yes, COVID was the whole pandemic was 2 years, and people lost jobs, and it hit opera singers very hard. Many of them couldn't even perform anymore. A lot of musicians. There's bands all around the world that, because of the social distancing and the COVID, you couldn't really be within more like in the same household, and it must have affected you like really really like bad, because you've been part of the abusive parents who are alcoholic, and then the pandemic. And how did you deal with all that? Like,
Well, at first I was like a lot of people, anxious, overwhelmed. Again, my label dropped me, and I thought, you know what, Randy, you got to practice what you preach. You know, I'm an anxiety specialist. I had to consciously say, all right, we need to reel this in. You can't be creative when you're anxious, you're in the wrong part of your brain. You're thinking with your amygdala and not your cortex. Cortex is the creative part. So I had to really consciously dial it in, practice what I preached, did a lot of mindfulness, and I signed up with Modern Musician, and who taught me how to digitally market. And I started live streams. I started a show called Not So New But Improved. Every week I would try something new. And it was stupid stuff. I was watching the British Baking Championships and trying to learn how to make puff pastry. You know, I learned how to knit. I am god awful, like ridiculously bad, but it was funny. So every week I was out there, you know, and I wasn't going to come out of this, you know, behind the ball. Like, I was really proud of the album I put out, and I was able to really push it forward, and I think progress when a lot of artists, you know, couldn't do that. And I owe that to my past, that resiliency of not knowing when to quit when you probably should, you know, like, I just don't know when to quit. Like, oh, you dropped me, I guess I should roll over and die now, but hey, I haven't yet, so here we go. You know, you take a deep breath and you find ways to make it work, and that's worked for me so far, you know.
yeah, come out a stronger woman. And in the first 6 months it was hard, but um, we were able to work from home. So basically, with the social distancing, you couldn't really see anybody. And I know a lot of people started podcasts during the pandemic. A lot of them have also did live streaming and live concerts. And I think it was probably end of last year where everyone started getting into the shape of things and they started getting um, performance plans, and they were able to go out there and perform at venues in front of people again. And so everything's kind of opening up right now. I mean, we still have this pandemic sort of Omicron COVID thing still going on, but people are more or less just trying to make the best of it now, coming out of it like a flower,
Right.
and hopefully we go back to whatever normal means.
Oh, it's never
Um,
going to be back to normal.
no.
We're recreating, rethinking things. We're going to have to deal with Gen Z, who's gotten a lot of the youngsters have gotten a lot of the trauma of this. But it is a new normal, and I was able to do a little tour this summer. I went down south. Um, Allendale is just one of the most magical places on the planet for venues, and heard people clapping again, and that was just amazing.
What do you think is the most important personality trait, strength someone would need to be a singer songwriter and be successful when they come out of an abusive situation? What would be the first thing that you would tell them?
Well, I really would explore. There's all kinds of musicians, right? There's a musician who's just going to go in their living room because they love to sing or play guitar and do whatever, and that is fine. There's the other musician who hopes to maybe do some open mics. There's some that want to write their own material. So first thing you got to do is define what the music means to you, what you like to do, how you want to do it. You just want to sing like karaoke? That's awesome. Pick some songs that really mean something to you, and let's work through that. If you want to start writing and working through, you could start by journaling, and there's other ways to ease yourself into this. So it's really meeting a person where they are. I think it takes all kinds of personality types. For me, it wasn't so natural to, stand up in front of people. It was really hard. And now it's like, I'm doing these live streams every Thursday, with people coming in and out. I thought I'd move away from it at this point, but it just keeps happening. So you just kind of go with that and, meet everyone who's going to be there. So, it takes all kinds of personality types. And I think the most important thing is has confidence in yourself to say, you got something to say. Let's find out how I want to say it.
What
I think
about,
that's key.
are you more of an introvert, extrovert? How would each of them attack the idea that they want to be singers? So with an introvert, what kind of advice would you give them? And for an extrovert, what kind of advice would you give them?
I consider myself actually a bit of an introvert, and I've gotten to the point where I'm more comfortable on the stage having people listen than having to, go up in front of strangers all the time and just introduce myself. It's kind of my introduction to you, and if you like me, afterwards we can have a conversation, and it kind of eases that a little bit. An extrovert can just go into a room and is going to mingle, and if they're fine with that, that's hard for me. I'd rather be with a few close friends than, walk into people I don't know. I'm like, but I'll sing to you, and this is my voice and what I have to say, and then I'm going to meet the people I resonate with, So it's I use it as a kind of an icebreaker.
If music was taken away from you, is there anything that you would be able to fall back on?
My voice. Um, I really sat there and said, okay, I'm not going to be able to play guitar, but hey, I can sing. And that's what I did, for my first few bands. And even when I started writing, I put a group of guys together. It was called AMA, Against Medical Advice. We were playing the Village, back in the day. And what I would do is I would sing to my guitar player my song. And he'd have to figure out the chords, and he'd be like, oh my God, we'd sit there for an hour and figure it out, and then we'd take it to the band and put it together. So, that's what it was like a process. Okay, I'm going to sing, now I'm going to write, now I'm going to figure out how to make chords, and finally, 10 years ago, I got to the point where I can kind of do it myself.
Is that what you would consider your creative process when writing a song? that you would sing it in front of one of your members of your band or whoever, and then they would start writing it for you?
Right. Well, I always start with lyrics. Okay. And a lot of artists don't. They start with like a catchy guitar melody. I don't do that. I literally start with lyrics. And then at first then it was like, okay, now we need some chords to go with this. My creative process actually has changed over the years. 2016, I got a massive concussion.
Ooh.
And I mean, it messed me up. I couldn't read for a year, massive concussion, massive brain trauma. And I saw a concussion specialist, and he's like, you can't sing, you can't do anything. Like there's a black hole where my creativity was. And I couldn't even like cook without a recipe. Like I had nothing there. And when I started writing again, like 6 months later, I was writing in different keys. My entire process had shifted. I always start with lyrics, but how it's all coming together has dramatically shifted throughout the years.
What was that like for you? It must have taken quite a toll on your emotions and your passion and just your whole life. And with that, I've heard so many stories about just musicians have a story. Just because you're a musician and you sing passionately doesn't mean that you came from a good childhood. This is so fascinating hearing this from you.
I was terrified because I'm used to waking up with a song in my head. Like it could be my own stuff, it could be a new stuff, it could be someone else's stuff. But music was so integral, and I like doing creative things, and it was gone. And I was like, what am I going to do as a human being? Like I had just defined myself, and it was ripped away, and it was really, really terrifying. And I just had to be patient with the process, do my physical therapy, and pray it came back. I've had other setbacks. I just had rotator cuff surgery a couple months ago. Couldn't play guitar. But to me, I know that's temporary. The concussion, I didn't know where that was going, because it obviously was not my first concussion, but it was definitely damage, and it was no joke. I mean, I literally couldn't read. I literally had to lay down when I couldn't work. They wouldn't let me drive. When I finally went back to work, it was a half day. I couldn't even read my emails that were coming in. I would have parent meetings. I'd literally have to take notes of every single word that was said, because when I left the room, I didn't know what happened. My short-term memory was gone. So just terrifying coming back from that, and there's still some residual. Like if I'm playing live, I shouldn't even say this, but this happens, and somebody over here moves, I'm lost. I get lost in a song.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes I can just, keep coming back, but I have to like glitch for a second and try to figure out where I am, because I was that distracted. So, I'm still working through. Sometimes I'll keep my head down, because I think it's a bigger crowd. I can get away with that. But some people notice. Like, why do you always keep your eyes closed when you sing? I'm like, yeah, because I don't know where I am, in a song sometimes. But I'm back, and right after that concussion is when I wrote I'm Not That Girl. It's the first song I wrote after the concussion. And I'd got a notice for a high school reunion. And I was like, you didn't know me then. Nobody knew my secrets about my parents. Why am I going back now? Are you going to really be that interested in me now? So I pulled that together for I'm Not That Girl. So it kind of brought back the creative process.
What if that concussion ended your life? Do you think you would have been able to breathe and say, okay, I've done everything I needed to do. It's time to go? Or do you feel that you would have missed out on things that you haven't finished yet?
I probably would have found some other way to participate, because music is such a big integral part of my life. I love making videos and stuff. Like I would have found some way, I think, to participate. I'm not one to give up quite that easy. And I really have learned along the way, like when my label dropped me, I'm like, okay, so what do I do now? Like it's always parlaying into something different. And I'm still here. Here I stand. I'm still in the game. I'm going to do something. You know, I'm going to find something that I like to do. You know, so it might not have been music if it wouldn't have come back, but maybe I would have started just singing like other people's stuff, or it would have been something.
You sound so passionate about what you do and passionate about music that y- how would you have done, like what motivates you?
You know what? I've spent so long trying to figure that out because I have one passion. My sister, who's next to me, like literally has had a different response. I work with troubled kids, and I see some of them with that resiliency. Some of them have it, and some don't. And I would love to bottle it and give it to everyone. For all my troubled kids, but you have to find something you connect with and feel passionate about. And I don't care if it's, dominoes. You have to find something that really makes you feel good, and that's okay. That's what you want to do. And I found counselors along the way, and that helped me up, especially in school. Um, and my first instinct was to be that person for somebody else, because not every kid likes school, um, and help them through it. So you got to find your way.
You were mentioning about being dropped by a record label. Well, you could have just figured that maybe I'll just open up my own, create my own like record label, call it like
Well,
Randie's Studios or something.
yeah, I have a publishing company, Lost Days Productions, and I put my own team together. And the beauty of that was I picked a team that I knew liked my music and believed in what I was doing. You get assigned a team from a record company, and they're like, that, this is their day, But I found people who really believed in my music, and I think that really made the difference in able to really drive things, help me direct where I should be going, and I really do think that makes the difference. Not everyone, I mean, you don't realize you can do that. Again, that you're not alone as an artist sitting there, that there's people who do social media marketing, that know how to do Spotify and tap their brains. Put your team together. Always build a support network wherever you go.
You mentioned you have a sister. Is she musical too? Other people in your family musical?
I'm the family weirdo. Sister, Sister is a song about, every time I go home, they're expecting me to like grow out of my phase, and like do what everyone else is doing, and it's just not happening. But women have to learn how to support each other better. We're all individuals, we're all going to do our own thing, but there's these jealousies and I don't know, these dramas that I really live for the day where we really do band together because we'll be unstoppable. If we get out of our own way and learn to support what we're doing, even though it's different than what we're doing.
This is a very important conversation we're having because it's good to get everything off your chest and be more open and genuine like you are. You were talking about Unstoppable. It brought to mind that song by Shia called
Yeah.
Unstoppable. I am unstoppable. And yeah, and Titanium as well, which is another song that gets you going. My song is, we have a group called Doug and the Slugs, and there's a song called Day by Day. And that's my go to song whenever I need a pick me up. I just sing Day by Day. And it's not day by day, it's another song called Day by Day by. Every day you get stronger. Um, it's an excellent song. What do you think would be your songs to go to, or would you just play your own songs and just go from there?
It's interesting you bring up Shea because for a long time she wrote for other people. People don't understand how many songs she has out there. And then she started singing. She has the biggest anxiety stage fright of any artist I've ever come across. That's why she has the hair. She can't stand in front of people, for her own. I mean, and it really goes hand in hand in what we're talking about. She's an incredible talent, but she doesn't see it, you know? She really doesn't see the gifts, and man, and she's once she does, I mean, she's just an amazing, amazing, amazing talent.
Yeah, I couldn't
You know.
really understand why she would always cover up her face and her eyes like that, but now you're giving me an idea of why. So yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
because of stage fright and being nervous. Who would you think would be the most influential people in your life, and how do they impact you?
Um. Oh my goodness. Um. I've had, as much as I hated school, I had to transfer schools my senior year when I moved out of my parents, and there was this big thing. Um, and there was some counselors there that stuck by me, and they kept saying, "You're going to college," and I'm like, "I'm not the kind of kid that goes to college. What are you, nuts?" But they got me there, and this professor took me under my wing, Dr. Stinson. He made me a department assistant. And I was with him for 4 years. And I think that was one of the pivotal points where someone smart and intelligent and stable really took note of me and saw something in me and thought I was smart and had something to offer. So I think going to college, even though I didn't study music, I didn't have the confidence to do that, but it was pivotal for me. It took me out of that household with smart people, and I didn't go to a single frat party. I didn't want anything to do with that, but it was just an amazing, amazing transformation and opportunity.
Is there something that during your musical process that you discovered something surprising about yourself? Like, is there anything that you learned that you discovered about yourself?
Um, I think it was one of my first songwriting workshops, Skyland Songwriting Guild, and we would just do different lessons once a month and stuff, and critique each other's songs. And they gave us my first song challenge was to write a song, Sinners and Saints. And I'm like, that is a stupid topic. It's cliche. I don't know anything about it. And 2 days before we were supposed to present these songs, I went, "You're a songwriter. Stop being literal. You can be a singer, a sinner, and a saint in the same day. Write the song." And I did in 20 minutes. Like, I was done within an hour and a half. And I presented it. I wound up recording it. And it was the #1 requested song in New Zealand, Galaxy 107. And it was the first time I knew I was a songwriter. I could write a song from anything. Give me a scenario, I'll write you a song. And that's liberating. You don't have to wait for someone to dump you. You don't have to wait for something to happen. You could draw from what you already have. And that to me was really, really empowering.
I totally agree with you. There's just so many. Okay, let's see. So, write a song about a black cat that disturbs your laptop like mine does. Should I be asking whether you're still having little residual effects from your concussion?
Oh, yeah, when the audience moves and I get lost in songs, I'm seeing, I actually had a cognitive test of some things. My eyes shift a lot. Two-step processes can get a little lost. So there's definitely some residual there. It's gotten better over the years because that was 2016. But then I re-injured and stupid stuff. Because now you're prone to it. Any little bump on your head, your brain goes into overdrive. It's a glucose emergency, and it's trying to heal itself. So every little knock on the head becomes this big melodrama. So I should really wear a helmet, I think. Surfers now have those coconut helmets, like these little. That's what I need.
I just had a guest on my podcast who's a singer, but she said that she was born with hydrocephalus.
Oh.
And she's been through over 10 surgeries.
Is that Emma?
Emma G, yes.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
had her
Emma G. I love Emma G.
a couple of days ago. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've been on her show, actually.
Really?
Yeah, we're both modern musicians, so we know each other.
I had no idea that you were on the podcast with her. That's
Yeah.
great. That's awesome. Yeah, we had a great talk. We were on for about an hour and 10 minutes, and it was just amazing what she's been through. I mean, wow.
Yeah, she has a powerful story too, and she's
Yeah,
really a gifted speaker. She's done a TED's talk and everything. Like, she really, really is an inspiration.
she is. She
And,
is an
and
inspiration.
completely genuine in herself. You know, you're gonna see Emma, and that's it. Take her, you know, and that's it. So I really love and respect that.
I really liked her. We talked about everything. I'm talking about everything. Like, I want to say controversial stuff, but everything. And she was open and honest and genuine like yourself. This is amazing. I really appreciate that. When we're talking about no matter what you go through, you can do anything. I'm referred to that Nick Kershaw song called "The Sky's the Limit," where
Oh, okay.
he starts off where you could be a writer, fisherman, or fighter. You could be the jewel in the crown. And then after he says, "The sky's the limit, so dive on in it. Go by your colors so high above us. Just beginning, so don't look down because the sky's the limit." It's a great song.
Yeah,
Wonderful song.
yeah.
Um, Wanted to ask you, what do you think is the meaning of life?
Whatever you want it to be, you're giving it, whether you wanted it or not. Somebody brought you here, and here you stand, and you can make it the old downer, things aren't going right, oh, woe's me, the world's, you know, or you could say, you know what, I'm taking this day. Every morning there's something positive going on. What do I want to do with it? And you have to allow yourself to be empowered that way and not let other people influence how that's going to drag you down. And I know that's hard for a kid, you know, where the parents are such an influence in your life. I could go either way really well, or it doesn't always go so well. So, and I think that is the meaning of life. We're here for some reason, some divine purpose. I don't know what it is. It's a big old universe out there. But all I know is what I can control, and I can control this moment.
Well, I can control this moment too. So can you play us another song? And what song would it be? And can you talk about it? And then we'll
Um,
get you to play it.
oh, I'm trying to think what I want to do. You know what? Let's go to Sinners and Saints. If I can find my capo. Oh, there it is.
Okay, let me know when you start. I'll give you the window. But Sinners and
Lost my
Saints.
chord here. Sinners and Saints was the first song prompt I ever did for the Skylands Songwriting Guild. And it was the first time that I knew that I could just write a song for no reason.
Okay, you ready?
Okay, so Sinners and Saints was the first song prompt that I ever followed. And I realized that I'm a songwriter. I can just pull things and pull it together for a song. And it's so empowering to be able to do this. So this is a song that really almost didn't happen. I wasn't going to do the prompt, but I did it at the last minute. And it turned out to be one of the most requested songs, like internationally and in New Zealand. So this is Sinners and Saints. Can't say wasn't warned, I wasn't knocking on heaven's door, but now it's too late. That bull is running from the gate. That bull is running from the gate. Did they have to make you so pretty? That sexy of in a city with all those good looks, one look my tagline is, it's never too late to make good on a bad decision. And that's a story for life right there.
Yeah, that when you mentioned the name of the song, I'm thinking we have a wine called Saints and Sinners. So when you tip the bottle, it says sinner, and when you have it right up, it says saint.
That's awesome.
So when you were singing that song, I'm thinking someone's either pouring that bottle in a glass or not.
Or trying to unpour it, as the case may be, when you go out with someone who knows going to be
Yeah.
all bad for you.
That was excellent. How would you like to be remembered?
Um, I guess as someone who is inspired, you know, you don't always know who you're going to affect. Even the kids I work with, you know, the kids that come back to see me are the ones that were in my office like once or twice and like, oh, you were so helpful. And I'm like, I hope so. You know, but that's it. You know, you hope that people, you know, whether it's counseling or listening to my music, you know, get it, like it, inspired by it.
Yeah. Can you tell me what do you think is like? We've already heard your story about how you're from alcoholic parents and you had a concussion, and look where you are now. You're a strong woman. You're singing. You're musically inclined. Everything's wonderful. So, what's your formula for healing up from challenging situations?
I have a process. Something goes bad, I sit and cry. That could last a day or two. I grab some ice cream or cookies. And then I bake. I'm like a stress baker. And then I come up with a plan, and we got to do something different. You know what I mean? So I accept that things aren't where I want it to be, but then I got to come up with a plan to get them closer to where I want. You know, like when Enable dropped me, I was devastated. I thought I finally arrived and was somebody, and all of a sudden I wasn't. And my attorney's like, yeah, you still are. You're going to go further. You know what to do. Put it together. And, you know, that's kind of my process. Like, I feel like, oh, woe's me. Those times are getting shorter, though, and I'm like, okay, fine. This is just bad, and let's go. Let's make it better. But that's what you got to do. You got to look at your gratitude, and you got to stay positive. But it did create a resiliency in me that, you know, from an early age, not giving up. And I almost did give up. I was close, as close as I want to get, but I'm not going to get there anymore. You know, I know that I have more control and have things to do. Even if I'm doing it for myself, you know, I can enjoy my own company. And that's a hard one. Like, you know, when you always have to prove yourself. I would go to the gym because I need to be better. I need to be better. Oh, then people are going to like me and I'm going to be worthwhile. And I hit a wall and I'm like, I'm good enough. That's it. And I could just sit at home one day, and I like watching horror movies all night. You know, I'll bake if I want to, and just enjoying my own company. And once I got there, I knew it was going to be okay. You know, I knew I was going to be able to kind of do what I needed to do in life.
So what about relationships? Are you currently in a relationship? You have children?
Just getting out of one. Which is totally fine. And I'm also, maybe I'm too independent these days. And you get older, you look for different things. You know, I really need someone to fall in the step and have fun with. And if it's not working out that way, okay. We had fun, and now we're going to do other things.
It's always good to have someone around to help you, to lift you up when you fall. What do you think is the biggest takeaway you hope your listeners would learn?
Well, on that note, I'm independent, I'm confident in myself, but I know I have a community. I built a community of support. I have friends. You know, when COVID hit, they knew I was alone with my dog and my African gray. And they would call me all the time. You know, are you okay? Oh, I'm good. I'm baking. You want something? I'll leave it at your door. You know, that type of thing. So that sense, you know, when you're feeling you're alone, you got to start reaching out. You got to start reaching out. There's people there that are going to help you. You know, and that's a big lesson to learn, because, you know, my parents were very isolating. You know, you didn't feel like you were worth anything. So knowing that I have a community, you know, even if it's hanging around the folk project, you know, there's so many guitar players there, you know, I can just sit down with them, you know, it's knowing there's a community there. Do what you like to do, and you're going to find people who fall into step.
So, what kind of social issues matter to you? What do you think of veganism?
What do I think of?
Veganism.
Oh, I made a face, I'm sorry. I always have kids who come in and go, today I'm vegan. And I kind of go, I sigh, because it doesn't mean they're eating healthy. And I'm all about healthy lifestyles, and everyone has their own idea of that. But you need so much protein, you need so many vitamins. And so we always have to have a talk about how much protein are you getting. And if it's 2 yogurts a day, you're not even close. So some people are better at it than others. So I never judge anybody's lifestyle. I help them to do it the best they can. That's what a counselor does. You know, I don't judge your decisions, but, you know.
If you, yeah, I understand what you're talking about, and that's a perfect situation. So, but with veganism, it's sort of like I have a friend who's full vegan, and he's trying to get me to become a vegan, and he's saying, well, you eat animals and lamb and all this and anything dealing with beef, but there are places in the world where people literally have cows and goats for pets. And said, well, you wouldn't eat your cat or your dog, would you? And I'm like, he puts me on the spot all the time.
Well, I have another theory on that. You know, I have pets too. I'm not going to eat my dog. And I feel bad when I give my bird chicken, but she really likes it. But here's my thought. You know, I really do think people in the city are too far from the farm. And, you know, we're eating plants, which has life and things like that, has a life cycle. And it's part of the animal kingdom, you know? So, you know, people are like, oh, they slaughtered, and how are they killing it? And I think a bigger problem with the farmers is big businesses taking over farms, and farmers no longer own their own cattle. They don't own their own chickens. It's owned by industry. That, to me, is a bigger problem than I don't care what you eat. You know, I think we needed to look at the bigger state of affairs of what's happening in this country and why our farmers are in such crisis. To me, that's a bigger issue than I don't really care what you eat. Everyone has their own idea of healthy. It's like I visited a couple of friends of mine, and they were telling me about their healthy lifestyle, and I'm like, it's really interesting what people think are healthy. I can guarantee most vegans aren't getting the proteins that they need, because they're like, oh, like I said, you know, this has protein in it. It has 19 grams. Well, you need 5 to 6 ounces. You know how many grams are in an ounce? You know how many yogurts you need to eat? I mean, so unless you're eating a lot of beans and a lot of supplements, a lot of vegans aren't actually eating healthy. So, again, I don't judge lifestyles, you know, but I just help people do it better and, like, really be conscious about what you're doing and not what you think you're doing. So.
Yeah, I asked Emma G the same question. She said she tried veganism, but then she found out that because of the hydrocephalus that she had, that she was getting anemic. So she has to have meat every so often to stop that. But I've known people who said they were vegans and then they couldn't handle it. And with me, when I'm around them, I love eating vegan because, you know, I want to respect them.
Sure. Oh, I definitely, again, I don't judge. I probably do have vegan meals during the week. It's not like I'm avoiding it, but part of a lifey health style is a certain amount of proteins, a certain amount of carbs, a certain amount of vitamins. It's all about balance. And again, I think, we are too far removed from the farm, and we go to a grocery store, and we don't really respect where that's coming from. And, you know, I have all my family out in Pennsylvania, they hunt. And it's gotten them through COVID, you know, the deer meat, because, you know, again, their farms were shut down. Farmers down the street, they had huge silos of milk that had to be dumped because truckers couldn't get in to get it. And it went bad. these poor farmers. So we are kind of removed from the farm. I think we need to balance. We shouldn't have hamburgers every day, although I've been there. Um, I've rethought those things, but we need a balance. And if you want to try the vegan, go for it. Just again, be healthy about it. And if you're vegan, I will respect you.
Like, I've seen a lot of videos, especially on TikTok, where the one video I saw recently was, oh, we feel so sad that we had to put our beloved cluck down. And all it was a pet chicken that they had to put down. And my first thought was, well, why don't you just go after it's died and pluck it and eat it? But on their side, it's like, oh, we have to bury it, And but I wouldn't want to be rude like that. But everyone, like people have
You know
pet
what? A
elephants.
farmer would say you're wasting meat.
Yeah.
Like they kind of have a point.
But have you ever heard of Greta Thunberg? She sort of has social issues about the climate change, and she did a kind of like a talk, and then she goes, "How dare you?" And she was like a 16-year-old Swedish girl. And during the pandemic, I noticed that people were throwing latex gloves all over. I took photos of about 100 at one point, latex gloves just thrown on the ground, masks thrown on the ground. I'm like, this pandemic um, sort of caused a lot of garbage on this planet as well, because people just don't know to take the latex gloves or whatever and throw them in the garbage. I used to work in a factory that made latex gloves.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh no,
it's
I don't
like
think so
all over
either.
the place. I just couldn't believe it. So that's what I care about. And also, yeah, just things like that. Like, I don't want to be a vegan, but I don't mind eating it.
I love vegetables. Like I could eat a whole big bowl of broccoli and be happy, and salads and stuff like that. It's just I'm gonna throw some meat in there.
I know
I'm not
my
gonna.
friend, my vegan friend, is probably going to watch this and thinking, "How dare you!"
I know I'm probably gonna be all these haters. I know, like Chrissy Hines and Joan Jett, for how badass those girls were. They are now hardcore PETA members. Like they're
Oh
out
yeah,
there.
oh yeah, she's right up
Oh
there.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm
Nope.
telling my friend, like, as long as the animal isn't killed in front of me, I'll eat. And then he was all over me yesterday when we went out for dinner. So I'm like, oh, it's like I respect you because when we're together, um, I will eat vegan because I don't want to eat meat in front of you. And then he says something totally different, and then he says, I respect you, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with it. Like it's our conversation sort of like we should have a podcast ourselves because it's just incredible conversations we have. Um,
You know
so
what? At some point, when it comes to some topics, it comes down to faith. It's not science. It's not. This is what I believe. This is where my faith is, and you don't dissuade these people. You're not gonna actually. You're not changing my mind. I'm not changing it because this is what I believe. And that's what it is.
what do you think about the music industry? Do you think there's something that you think needs to change?
I was on tour this summer, and a lot of venues, you working for tips, or it's a minimal fee. Now you on the road 8 hours, you're going to play a set. Could be an hour, could be 2 hours, and then you got to stay somewhere. You got to pay for gas, and most of these venues, it's not a living wage. You're expected to sleep in your car, and at my age, like I'm not sleeping in my car. When Spotify, I just had 16,000 listens in a week. At 0.02 cents a listen, a 20-second listen, you know how much I made? I think it was 50 cents. And I really do think at some point we really have to look at what musicians make. And not only that, if you don't make a minimum, your money actually goes into a pot for the bigger artist. To me, that's so backwards. Like, those are the record companies getting those profits. And who owns Spotify, iTunes, and all these things? You know what I mean? It's really, really become impossible. In some ways, it's easier for us indie artists because I have access to things and people I didn't. But the money that's to be made there is so skewed to maybe 1% of the artists. So it makes it really, really difficult, which is why, Chris, we have such respect for you, who really supports your emerging artists. We love you. Let us know what we can do for you, because it's really a brutal, brutal industry.
I've heard a lot about that. Yeah, most of the money goes to the actual producers and directors, and a lot of the artists don't get squat. That's why Jan Arden created and recorded a lot of her albums in the comfort of her own living room, so she gets like 90% of the profits. That's a good idea.
I self-produced all of mine. What kills me is Not That Girl. They broke their contract with me, and they were still getting a small percentage. And what I did is I stopped promoting it. I think they're now turning it over to me, and I put out 2 albums since then. But it's the same thing. Like, what were you doing to promote me? To take your percentage when, I've gone further without them, only because I was pissed off and wasn't going to let them win. So.
Well, I know in the days in the 80s and 90s when you could buy 45s and people who purchased millions of 45s. Remember the 45s back in those days?
Oh, yes.
Every time you bought a 45, the artist would get a fraction of it. But now it's all just Spotify. You don't even do MP3s anymore. I don't even purchase from iTunes anymore. I was given part of a family membership for Spotify, and I downloaded Spotify versions of all the iTunes and deleted all my iTunes music. And so, yeah, it's actually perfect.
See, that's why we love you. People don't understand. If you would download from my website, I get 100% of that.
Nice.
But if you listen on Spotify, I get 0.02 cents. Not 2 cents. 0.00. I think it's 0.002 cents for 20 seconds for a listen. So it's just a shell game. It really is.
Yeah, we're so happy that you graced our stage, and anything I can do to get your name out there and to get people to purchase more of your album so that you can rest comfortably in your own age and have like your own butler and maids and
yeah. Okay, I would love a cleaning crew once in a while. That would be awesome. I'd settle for that, because I am going full-time musician. I'm gonna really go part-time with my counseling in the next few months, and I'll be turning over full-time music and part-time coaching. So.
Can't say I wasn't warned. I wasn't knocking on heaven's door, but now it's too late. That bull is running from the gate. That bull is running from the gate. Did they have to make you so pretty with that sexy of inner city? With all those good looks, one look is all it took. One look is all it took. And I know you ain't no saint. The sinner in you won't wait, but the devil in you will get his due. And I'm walking out on you. And I'm walking out on you. Oh, you had my mama fooled. She's a woman too. It all came so easy, but I wasn't so hard to please. I wasn't so hard to please. And I know you ain't no saint. The sinner in you won't wait.
Definitely, that was a keeper. Perfect. Ladies and
You
gentlemen,
know how much
Randie
we love
O'Neil.
that applause. We love that clapping.
Thank you for opening up to us and letting us know what's going on.
No, don't apologize at all. You know, again, when people start sharing, it's just so empowering. It gives people a chance to, I'm going to share back, and it's wonderful. You know, it really is.
Okay, everyone, please hit the subscribe button for more content. And look in the description. You'll see a lot of Randie's work, all her videos, everything about her. And hopefully there's probably I could put a link down there where if they click on maybe a link tree or something, it'll
Yeah,
bring them.
that QR gets you to my link code. So I'll give you the link tree. I'll share both of them in a little bit.
Do that. And then I'll post that in the description when we post your video, and I'll edit it and beautiful. Oh, thank you, Randie. You made my day.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me. Thanks sincerely for everything you do.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, so have a wonderful day and keep singing. I can't wait for this concert that we're going to have on here.
I can't wait either.
Excellent.
Let's do this. All right,
Bye.
Chris, have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.